Hi everyone. As you may be aware, the Royal Commission into Robo Debt was released yesterday. Haven't had a chance to read the 900-page report myself, but I believe it makes interesting reading, even though we know what the ending will be, with the exception of the specific chapter that has been designated to the Attorney General and Department Secretaries for the purpose of identifying the crooks that were behind the Robo Debt system and whether or not they should be prosecuted or not. Now, what's interested me about this, and I'd be interested to know what you think in terms of the way this system was used and how it was particularly targeting the most vulnerable people in our community. And what does that say about a government that says that they are for the people and that they work desperately hard for their constituents? Well, it says very little. In fact, what it does tell us is that the Liberal Party are a bunch of, I won't use that word, the Liberal Party are about, wankers, that they have no concept of what it's like to be empathetic, no concept of what it's like to manage the economy, and no concept as to how their decisions impact the lives of those people whom they're governing. Now, the interesting thing to me about the Robo-Debt scheme and the Royal Commission is that, number one, they did a fabulous job. They came to what I think probably is the right conclusion, and it was quite evident to all of us as the commission was taking place and people were being interviewed that there were certain members of the government who were acting inappropriately, and there was certainly members of the public service who also have been acting inappropriately, and that they knew that this system was illegal but chose to do nothing about it, or Morrison in particular chose to ignore the advice, and that they didn't do due diligence in order to ensure that the system was supposed to be set up according to the law. Now, what this has meant, though, is that the Liberal Party now are on the back foot, a position, in fact, that they should be quite accustomed to, because they do tend to spend a lot of time resting on their back foot. And it is interesting, I think, to notice the response that Dutton had in relation to this. Now, this is a despicable human being who should, at this particular point, admit that they made a mistake. He himself wasn't directly involved, as I understand it. It was more about Tudge, Roberts, Porter, and of course, the great, the one and only, the fabulous, the narcissist, Mr. Scott Morrison. So what do we have as a result of all of this? We have Dutton trying to offer excuses about the way this report is being used. And I'll just play a little bit of a clip that I had on my on my Twitter account that he released recently as an interview, I think, with ABC. And the fascinating thing about this is that he was left with an opportunity at this point to say, I take full responsibility for whatever happened. The people that have, or three of the people, I lie, two of the people that are mentioned in this report in particular have actually resigned from Parliament. So there's Roberts and Morrison still left, while Morrison is busily gallivanting around Europe and enjoying himself on our dollar. What more can I say? So what does Dutton have to say about this? Well, Dutton wants us to believe, firstly, that this is just like, to use a Trumpian term, what he's basically saying is this is just a political witch hunt. He's saying that it's become political and that the government are using it to attack them. Well, sorry, buddy, but, if someone commits murder, you accuse the person who's committed murder of the murder, and you don't sidestep it, you don't back away from it. If the jury's found that this person had committed a crime, then clearly you have to agree with that decision, normally. But in this particular case, Dutton doesn't want to agree with the decision. And as it turns out, neither does Morrison, funnily enough. Morrison has been reported to have told people that he disagrees with what has been the conclusions that have been drawn from this report. which is bizarre because it was like all of us had the opportunity, and I did do that from time to time, actually watch the commission while it was in operation, and was able to see that there were certain people who were clearly lying, and they were often caught out doing so. And on top of all of this, there is a whole range of public servants who also need to be reprimanded strongly for their inability to be able to draw to the attention of the government of the day the issues which they considered meant that this system was wrong. I think we all need to be reminded that not only were many people disadvantaged because they didn't know these debts that the government was telling them had been accrued, but also there are a number of people who ended their lives as a result of being of having Robo Debt declare that they had exorbitant debts. Now, and at no point, incidentally, has anybody ever come out from that government of the day, the Morrison government. No one's ever come out and said, this is a tragedy that so many people lost their lives. There were things we could have done that could have changed this, but we chose not to, and we are deeply sorry. Of course, you wouldn't expect that from politicians generally, and we certainly don't expect that from the Liberal Party. Never will, and so don't hold your breath because it ain't going to happen. And as you're about to hear, it's not going to happen because Dutton himself has decided that they are they not exonerated, that's not the word I'm looking for, that they have nothing to answer as a result of this because he's gaslighting us by telling us that this is just the government using this for their own political gain. Now, I must say that if the shoe was on the other foot, I can guarantee you the Liberal Party would be relentless at having a shot at the Labor Party about such a balls up. But here he is declaring at this particular point in time anyway that the whole thing is kind of like a witch hunt. So here's what he has to say.
I became Prime Minister of this country, but fortunately the Australian public had good sense to vote against him because he's a political animal and he's used every opportunity to milk out whatever political advantage there is to the Labor Party out of this particular issue, and the Prime Minister's doing the same. So I would just sound a word of caution about the Prime Minister's politicisation of this process as well. Well, as I make the point, Bill Shorten's politicisation of this process has been documented on Hansard. He's been pulled up by the Speaker on a number of occasions because he's really gone close to the line, if not crossed the line. And he's seen political advantage in this situation. There's no question about that.
Well, okay. Go, Dutton. Go, Dutton. I think it is clearly evident that there is going to be some politicalisation from that. I guess, quite frankly, we can't escape that very issue because it's a highly political issue. But is it politicalisation when you have an independent commission make a decision and set about 60-odd recommendations for change within the public service and how this stuff gets dealt with? When you've got a public service when you've got a commission that does decide on those issues and you present that to the public, is that politicising it? No, it isn't. It is simply presenting the facts that independent commission have now been able to present to the public, for that matter. So what's the politicalisation? The politicalisation, as far as Dutton is concerned, is the fact that this has come out in the first place, that his government has proved to be not transparent, that there are a bunch of wankers who simply endeavoured to be able to put together in a most disjointed sort of way a system which was going to grab $1.4 billion or whatever it was from unsuspecting people. That was the idea. The idea was to try and deal somehow with the deficit that government had created by inflicting pain and suffering and death even on the most vulnerable people in the community, those people that were on Centrelink benefits. Now, I think Dutton should be just ashamed of himself, that this should not have happened in the first place. He should never, ever, ever have tried to take a back seat in relation to this. He doesn't need to come out and attack the Labor Party at all. He can simply say, these people were not my people at the time. I don't need to defend them anymore, that this system was wrong. But to try and do what he's doing now says more about Dutton. The man's a coward. There's no two ways to describe him. I don't know what the other way is. That's one way. He's a coward. And this needs to be called out for what it is, which his ineffectual ability, his inability to be able to stand up effectively against something which independently has been decided, and that is not decided by a political party. It is simply decided by an independent commissioner. Now, I can guarantee you that had he won government, there would never have been a Royal Commission into Robo Debt. It just would not have happened because there was too much of their skin in the game. But unfortunately for him, the Labor Party got in and they decided on Robo Debt. Now, one could argue, I think, that Robo Debt was also an effort to have a go at the government, and I guess you could be right. The past government. I guess you could be right. But on the other hand, Robo Debt was a scam, simple scam, run by a government, run by ministers and public servants, and needed to be called out. Because if there's one thing you and I and everybody else are demanding from our public servants is transparency. And now we have it. And now, of course, this character doesn't know what to do with it, apart from blaming the government for the commission in the first place and for letting us know what the results were. So let me know what you think down below. Subscribe to my channel. Contact me if you wish. And let me know what you think, because that's the purpose of me having this channel and what I do. Criticise me. Happy to see criticisms. Not always happy, but, whatever. I'm okay with criticism. Criticisms are often very helpful. So let me know what you think. Put some comments below and subscribe to my channel. And just remember, I hope you have a great day. Look after yourselves and be safe.